Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. Unfortunate that I've had to delay this a few days on a couple of occasions. Just things come up, and finally had the time. And also, sorry for being about half an hour late for the stream, but again, things getting in the way. In today's stream, I'm going to cover major news stories from the preseason. So by now, of course, all the preseason's done, and we're actually a number of days past the preseason. So it ended on the 9th, if you say the day before the regular season. I believe the 10th is when it started, the regular season. So we're a few days delayed, and there's news stories that I will be covering. It'll be this coming Friday, I believe, that will have taken place since the 9th up to the Friday. So I'm going to do weekly recaps on Friday. So I just thought it'd be better to separate it preseason and then regular season. I could have done preseason and a portion of the start of the regular season, but it just didn't make sense. I think it's better to do it in chunks. Also, to have had a longer portion of the regular season before talking about it, I think is good, because then you can start to see, not that there's really going to be trends, but that things start to develop, as opposed to you get three games in. What are you going to say about anything? You're not going to have any useful information, really. So anyways, I thought it made sense. Just unfortunate about the delays. And so if you take a look at the description for this stream, it'll have all of the topics listed. So those are the titles of the links, the web pages, and then I've got all the web pages below that. I hope I didn't miss any. I'll maybe double check after this stream, but I think everything's good. So a lot of this is just going to be pretty quick and easy. Just going to briefly touch on the subjects, just give you the information you need to know, and then move on. So let's get to it. So we'll start with, give me a sec to get this organized best. I think that's probably good. So, if you want to read more on the topics, basically you can go over to the articles that I listed. More or less, I'm just going over the headlines. There's not much more typically to talk about than the headlines, but I'll just quickly take a look at a couple things here and there and decide if there's anything else to say. So, first thing is Steven Stamkos is on his last year of his contract. And there hasn't been any negotiations, which, as the captain of the team, it's a bit, it's probably annoying for him, or he's disappointed, as the title says. Not really much more to say than that. Just that who knows what they're going to do. The problem is that they don't have much cap space, and he's aging, and is he the right guy to extend? It's hard to say. So anyway, so something of note there. So he could be on the move at some point during the season. Of course, we'll see in the end. So that's about enough about that. Marchand is the captain of the Bruins. Don't really need to say anything more than that. Of course, he takes the place of Bergeron, so kind of makes sense. Landeskog's going to miss the season. Now, my understanding is he might come back for the playoffs, or could come back for the playoffs. Let's see if I can find April 1. So he's expected to be out until April 1, which means that he could theoretically be back for the playoffs. That's at this moment. So for them to be without Landeskog, I think that's a big missing piece. And they weren't able to do or to go as deep last playoffs. And I think missing him is a big reason why, as well as missing Kadri and a number of other pieces. But yeah, so for that reason, I actually am not as confident that the Avalanche are a cup contender. So anyways, I think it's a big loss. Just something to keep in mind if you were thinking that they'd have a really good shot. They could. And again, with LTIR, maybe they can fill it and they can do the same sort of thing they did, that Tampa did with Kucherov that one season, where misses the season, comes back in the playoffs, and you have that cap space to bring in another guy to kind of cheat the cap, I guess you could say. So, so something interesting there. But during the regular season, at the very least, they're probably not going to do as well if they don't fill up that space with a good player. So, Patrick Kane required, because now this is in the past, at least one more month for recovery from, I think it was hip resurfacing surgery. Now, this came on September 21st. So that means probably by the end of this month, you could estimate that he might be in a position to sign with the team, which he hasn't done yet. So keep an eye out for that as the days move along. I didn't realize that Couturier missed the whole season from an injury, but I knew about Atkinson. Anyways, they both missed the season for the Flyers. To have them back, they're going to be obviously a lot better. Is that going to be enough to move them in the standings? You never know, but because they're not that bad of a team, on paper at least. But yeah, I would still bet that they're not going to do as good. So, are not going to do well. Probably going to do as good as last season. So, anyways, just a couple of notes that they're supposed to be back and healthy. So that's that. Andlauer purchases the Senators. So the purchase was completed. That was again the 21st. Not really much more to say than that. Does it really matter who owns the teams? Not really. So anyways. So that was finalized. I forget how much they bought them for. It says $950 million. I don't know where that sits in terms of. Let's just see if we can see that. 950 would sit 10th-ish. Maybe slightly less because this was 2021, I believe, and with inflation and stuff. So, so pretty good value. I mean, it's a Canadian market, so they tend to do pretty good, at least for attendance. Just overall revenue, I don't know as much because of the exchange rate and stuff. So, anyways, this link I actually didn't include because it was just a reminder, basically that the Coyotes and Kings played in Australia, so games took place there. I don't think there's really anything of great significance to report. Just some preseason games in Australia. So I think smart to have games in the English speaking world. I think is probably most transferable after all the places that are already playing the sport. So all the Scandinavian countries and anywhere that's cold, basically. And then so England and, well, England's, it seems like, at least in my opinion, that they're starting to develop their hockey and kind of evolve as a hockey market. But yeah, Australia, I think, would be way away from it. But, you know, they play some tough sports like well, rugby. I think they've started to get into American football, but anyways. So they could be a good market. It's hard to say, but I mean, it's a bit warm there, so I don't know. Anyways, not a bad idea to at least get some exposure because you never know. To talk about all the scores and stuff from the preseason, I think would kind of be pointless. I think maybe what makes more sense, and as you can see here, is to just draw your attention to anything of great significance. So in this case, the Flames beat the Canucks 10-0. Pretty lopsided. It typically the home teams, and this was early in the preseason, the home teams would ice a decent roster, whereas the away teams wouldn't. They tend to keep their good players for home games for whatever reason, maybe for attendance, things like that. So, don't know how bad the Canucks were in terms of their roster, but you can see a lot of their main starters that actually put up the points, like Hannafin, Dubé, Huberdeau, Kadri, Anderson. So I mean, clearly they iced a decent roster. I'm not going to bother looking at the rest, but so just lopsided 10-0. That's pretty. Interesting, I guess. I don't know what else to say. Backstrom has had hip issues for a number of seasons now, and he's supposed to be fully healthy, and apparently he's tired of talking about his injury. So if he is back and healthy, that's a huge boost to the Capitals because he was a big point producer, really useful player. So we'll see how significant of an impact he'll have on the team, but it is important for the team to have him back, an important centerman like that. So, so yeah, he's supposed to be healthy, but of course, you know, we'll see. Flames signed Backlund to a 2-year extension, and he was named captain. I don't know who was captain the previous season. Is it going to tell me? What? Why do you stop at 2020? Were they without a captain for that long? Huh. I don't know. Anyways, it's not all that important. So yeah, and I think it's 4.5 per season for those 2 seasons. So I guess good news for Flames fans if you like him. This one's a big story in my opinion. Vasilevskiy, just at the start of the preseason, decides he's going to go for back surgery. I don't know why they don't make these decisions like way earlier, because that's going to be like a big hit to the team. And for that reason, I actually have the Lightning as being a bubble team, or at least in part. Because of this, I have them as a bubble team in the East, which is maybe crazy to some people, but that's how I feel about it. So, in their roster. So, we'll see what happens with them, but missing Vasilevskiy for a chunk of the season is a big deal. Bedard had 2 assists in his preseason debut. He also scored a goal later on in the preseason. Beyond that, not really much else to say because it's just the preseason. Some other storylines. So Toronto tried Nylander at center. I believe that changed back. So he's back on the wing. So they thought maybe they could use him in center, but that didn't work out. PTOs. I won't really comment on that. Yeah, not really much else from that article besides the Nylander thing, and that experiment didn't turn into anything good. So Pinto is not close in contract negotiations. They've had cap issues. I believe they had to address one fewer player because of cap issues, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was in the regular season. But anyways, so he still is not signed. And yeah, I think there was like fans chanting that we want Pinto or something like that in a recent game. So anyways, he remains unsigned, player missing for the team. So we'll see what happens with them. Brandon Sutter retires. He had long COVID, and it appears as though that wasn't, or that prevented him from continuing or, resuming, I guess, his career. So yeah, he retired. Another guy is Stepan. He retired as well. So he was with the Hurricanes and Rangers, and I forget if he played. Who else did he play for? Coyotes, Senators. He did play for the Rangers, didn't he? Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, so he's retired. Zegras was signed to a 3-year contract, $5.75 million per. Pretty inexpensive, so I think that's a decent deal. Let's pull them up. So last season, 65 points in 81 games, 9th overall pick. Of course, everybody, at the very least, actually, I would say any hockey fan would have known about his, layup, alley-oop assist And didn't he do the lacrosse goal too? And anyways, so I don't know if necessarily he's going to turn out being some super stud of a player, but 65 points in his more or less second season, because it was second full season. Good production. So, I mean, to get him at that cap hit is, I would say that's an underpay. And especially because it's short term, I guess maybe what they're doing, it's essentially acting as a bridge, and he's going to want a big pay raise if he produces, and if he doesn't, then this turned out being minimal risk, so I'd say it's a good contract. So anyways, apparently the cap could increase by 4.5 million next season based on financial performance, so that could be a big deal for pay raises, for trades, and things like that. How things are going to actually turn out, it's, of course, we'll see, but it's going to be all those different things. So teams that have cap space might trade for a player that has a greater cap hit. So, for example, they might, like, a team that might have a $4 million player might go and trade to get an $8 million player to improve their team, and use the cap space. Of course, there's all sorts of different ways that you can use it. You can, like I said, sign people in free agency, a $4 million player for depth. If you need to extend a guy or whatever. So there's, long story short, 4.5 million is a lot of money. So it'll probably have a pretty substantial impact on how everything shakes up and how all those things kind of interact and what the result's going to be. It's like, of course, all sorts of things could happen, so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Flames are to have a new arena opening in 2026-27, and it's supposed to start being built this coming year. So that's pretty big news because they've been talking about that and having issues related to getting a new arena. So good news for Flames fans. That, I mean, I don't think they were really at risk of being relocated, but this, pretty much guarantees they're not going anywhere, you would hope. But yeah, so good news there. Kaliev was suspended for 2 regular season games from a kneeing penalty during the preseason. Nothing more to say than that. Kings head coach McClellan was extended for 1 year. When does that bring him to? So he's got 23, 24, 24, 25. So it brings him to the end of next season. And he's done very good. I think the Kings have done better than I would have predicted. And I think he's been a big reason why. So I'd say really good to extend him for them. And good job for him. Unsurprisingly, because it seems like a trend, Matt Murray's out 6 to 8 months. And so Toronto's going to be missing him. So I guess theoretically he could come back for the playoffs, but I wouldn't count on it. So we'll see what happens there. But no Matt Murray for the Leafs this coming season. Dahlin signs an extension, $11 million per season for 8 years. As far as I'm concerned, that's ridiculous. And a very bad contract. Now, of course, in the open market, you know, yeah, you could get he could fetch that. Sure, he's maybe worth that. He was nearly a point per game. Great, but I would never spend that much on a defenseman. Even like a good defenseman, the most I would ever really spend, it would only be like Makar at like 9 whatever million or something like that. I think that's what he's making. But beyond that, like the Carlson contract, this contract, there's just no way. In my opinion, what you should be doing is spending per production, regardless of position. So you should be paying a defenseman that produces 73 points the same as you would a forward that produces 73 points. Now, I know there's a lot more to it, like a defenseman has an impact on the defensive parts of the game, breakouts, a whole bunch of different things. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all about production. So that's my opinion. That's my argument. I doing these kinds of contracts, just give it a few seasons and this team's going to have cap issues. You can see it. It's guaranteed. Especially for a defenseman to spend that much. It's just ridiculous. And you saw how hard it was to move Carlson. And what's the cap hit in Pittsburgh? What is it? It is 10 million. I thought some of it was shaved. But anyways, nonetheless, it's just ridiculous. Like, Letang produces at a similar rate as Carlson, and he's making $4 million less. Like, it's just makes no sense to me. So, anyways, really dislike the contract. If you're a Buffalo fan, just wait. This is going to really come back to haunt them, I'm sure. So, anyways. Scheifele and Hellebuck, they signed extensions with the Jets, both at $59.5 million for 7 years, which is a cap hit of 8.5. For Hellebuck, I mean, obviously he's worth it because he's like consistently a Vezina Trophy candidate. Clearly, again, Scheifele, he's like a point per game. And I think he produces like 20 some odd goals a season. Yeah, so on average, about a point per game, 20 some odd goals per season, up to 40 he had last season, which is a lot. I didn't realize he scored that much, but so Scheifele in particular, I'd say that's outstanding value for Scheifele. Would I say that's outstanding value? No, I'll correct that. I'll say it's very good or good value for Scheifele. I mean, maybe theoretically you could get him for less, but typically that kind of performance you're getting somewhere around 9 million. So I'd say it's either right on target, maybe slightly below, but pretty good value. So, and he's basically in his prime years. So, I'd say that's great. Maybe I would want to shave off a couple years of the contract because I think it expires when he's 37 or something. Where is that here? Seven years. Yeah. So 37, 38, something like that. And same with Hellbuck. I think they're the same age. So given that, I mean, both of them I'd want to shave off a couple years because really you don't want to go beyond 35 for contracts. I mean, people are playing later into like to older ages, I guess, to put it that way. So yeah, so it was a steal before his contract. Now it's pretty much market value, maybe slightly below. So I'd say altogether it's a steal because of the contract history. They had him for super cheap and had good performance. Now they have him at market value. I'd say it's great. Really good job there. Same thing for Hellebuck. Like I've argued, I don't think goalies should get paid so much anymore because I don't think they're as critical to teams' success as they used to be. But if you're going to do it with anybody, it would be Hellebuck, and if you're going to do it for any amount, that's probably, a reasonable amount. So I'm okay with it. I think it's okay. Not ideal, but whatever. Can't be too picky. So really, that's about it for major stories. There's a few. Where am I looking at the right spot? No. So Ross Johnson was claimed by the Ducks, and it was with the Islanders. Thompson by Ottawa was with the Ducks. Prosvetov, claimed by Colorado, was with Arizona. Ludwig, claimed by Pittsburgh, was with Florida. Greer, claimed by Calgary, was with Boston. Denisenko, claimed by Vegas, was with Florida. Harkins, claimed by Pittsburgh, was with Winnipeg. Fagemo, I don't know how that's pronounced, claimed by Nashville, was with LA. Thompson, that one, he was reclaimed later. Emberson, claimed by Sharks, was with Rangers. Spencer Martin, I thought was an interesting one, claimed by the Blue Jackets, was with Vancouver. So I think that one in particular stands out to me. I think that was a decent pickup. To get him for free is pretty sweet. That's about it for waiver claims. We already spoke about most of the contract signings. What else is there? So Zuccarello extended with Minnesota for 2 seasons at $4.125. That's pretty good value. I think he's near a point per game, isn't he? Yeah. So I'd say, outstanding value. You just saw Scheifele, similar production, getting paid double the price. So, but Zuccarello's getting older, I believe. Yeah, he's 36. So kind of makes sense, but good value, assuming he produces. Foligno signed 4 years at $4 million, an extension there. I mean, his production hasn't been that great. So I don't know if I like the contract, but whatever. It's not that much money, but I just wouldn't have spent that much, that's for sure. Drysdale, $2.3 million for 3 years. He was an RFA at the time. I'd say that's probably good value. I don't know offhand what his production was, but yeah, he missed most of last season. And 32 points in 81 games is pretty darn good for his first full season. So probably really good value there, but of course we'll see what actually happens. Hartman, $4 million for 3 years. That's an extension with Minnesota. Two-thirds of a point per game, maybe half a point per game, something like that. They did well with the Zuccarello one. Don't like Foligno one. Don't like the Hartman one. I don't like Minnesota's contracts. And I'm pretty sure if I went through all of their contracts, there's a number of them that I didn't like that much. So I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't really like those 2 of the 3 contracts there. But Hartman's, it's not the end of the world because he could produce well too. I just don't like the Foligno one especially. So, any other ones? Not really. And then there's newer ones since the start of the season. I won't touch on those until the next stream. Otherwise, let's have a look at some of the major injuries. So, Pacioretty's supposed to be back in November on approximately the 8th. What else do we got here? White Cloud comes back on the 4th of November. Matt Murray's out. Muzzin's out for the season. He's got another role with the team. Timmins isn't supposed to be back until November 4th. Vasilevskiy, December. That's just nuts. Sucks for Tampa. Any other big ones? Ellis is supposed to miss the season. That sucks for Philly. I mean, if they had him, it would be a relatively decent team with everybody healthy, I think. At least potentially competitive, but so too bad for them. Price, as expected, is not playing. Dvorak, November 4th approximately. Arvidsson, there's talk about, I think, him needing surgery. I thought I saw. He could be out for a while, so we'll see what happens there. Ekblad and Montour not back till December. So Florida could really struggle this early this season, so because those are 2 important defensemen to be missing. Landeskog we already mentioned. Francouz maybe could be significant, I guess, but they've got Georgiev, I think. Is Georgiev, I think they're right. Yeah. Any other big injuries? Voracek, we already knew about that. Weber, everybody knows that. Killorn, November 10th, approximately. That's a chunk of time. Nothing too crazy. Really, that's about it. So not too many substantial injuries, but a couple notable ones. The ones that I mentioned, like Landeskog, Vasilevskiy, Killorn, I would argue, is relatively important. Maybe a few more. Murray, whatever. Otherwise, just to kind of briefly recap team performance during the preseason, New Jersey had the best record, 7-0. LA, Ottawa, both 6-2-1 for LA, 6-2 for Ottawa. You can kind of see the rest from there. Minnesota 5-1. I don't know why some teams played fewer games. I'm not sure if there's anything I missed, but yeah. So you can kind of see how everybody did. Rangers didn't do well. Nashville, Winnipeg. That's about it. And then, again, the thing about points leaders in the preseason is you play against weaker competition if you're a good player, and then some of the good players just don't play as much. But just have a look at the point leaders. So Jesper Bratt, 9 points in 4 games. Eichel, 8 and 4. Jack Hughes, 8 and 4. Line 8 and 5. 7 and 3 for Marchand. 6 and 3 for Connor Timmins, which is pretty good. But isn't he supposed to be injured? I thought I saw that. Anyways. Bedard, 5 points in 4 games. Good for him. So, yeah. Again, there's not really much to say. It's the preseason, so. And then goalies. There's a lot of goalies that had good save percentages, but they only played like 3 games, so that's not that crazy. So you got a whole stretch of goalies that are, I think the league average is typically 915, 917 or something like that, I think. So anyways, you got a whole boatload of goalies that all did really mean. So, for example, Jack Campbell, everybody's concerned from last season because he didn't play well, but he did great in the preseason. Doesn't mean anything? Probably not. So, anyways. And I think that pretty much covers everything. I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss anything here. So, just bear with me a moment. Why isn't this? That's all done. Signings, waiver claims, injuries. Yeah. So that's about it. I mean, there's not really much else to say. Again, it's the preseason. It's not of substantial significance. Maybe the signings are probably the biggest stories. Couple odds and ends about some injuries, some players that are going to be healthy like Backstrom. Yeah. That's about it. So, yeah, again, it's a recap. I don't think there's too much really to to be too excited about. I mean, there's odds and ends here that are relevant, but yeah, like I said, it's just kind of the injuries, the signings and things like that. No major trades. Yeah. Cool. So I guess we'll leave it there. Yeah, just some housekeeping. So I'm supposed to stream in 15 minutes doing franchise mode. I forgot about that before I scheduled this stream for today, but thankfully I did have enough time to do this stream, and I will have time to do the next one. And so I should be on time for about 15 minutes to do franchise mode. Mind you, it's been 2 weeks since I played, so I'm gonna have to try to remember where I was, because I have no idea, because it's been so long. Because it's all done live, so the last time you saw it is the last time I saw it. So, yeah. So next up in about 15 minutes, we're gonna do franchise mode NHL 23. Again, a reminder: I'm not gonna move over to 24 until all the patches are basically done. So that's probably gonna be around December or something like that, I think. Also, it gives me time to wait to see if it goes on sale, which hopefully it does. I mean, not that I really care that much about $10-15, but might as well save it if I can. Yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping. It's been a bit since I've done any streaming, so gonna get back to it. There shouldn't be any other things to get in the way moving forward, at least for the foreseeable future. So yeah, so we'll leave it there. If you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. The channel homepage has upcoming streams on regular NHL content. And on that note, next up is a topic to be announced, which I have a couple things already written down as potential topics, so I just haven't announced what I'm going to do yet, because I haven't really thoroughly considered what I'm going to do yet, but I have a list of different topics. So so that'll get posted sometime soon. But anyways, that takes place on, I believe that's a Friday. So the schedule is supposed to be where I have a stream Friday morning and a stream Friday night. So first stream is random topics. Could be the NHL video game or other real NHL topics. And then the evenings on Fridays is going to be a recap of the week. And I'm going to be doing it Saturday to, well, what would that actually be? So it would be Friday to Thursday, and then talk about it on Friday. Otherwise, for things I can't schedule ahead of time, like franchise mode for NHL 23, that takes place on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Be a Pro is whenever I have time or feel like it, which I haven't had time, but I have felt like it. So sorry I haven't been able to do that. Any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions likewise, and we'll see you guys now in about 14 minutes. Okay, bye.